Good day, guys. Us today, and in this one today, we're going to be messing around with the 3DS emulator. Now, what we're going to do is take the official build from Citra, and we're going to pump it so we can play our 3DS games to the maximum with 4K. We're going to add controller support. We're going to fix all the broken games. We're going to get rid of those ugly black lines around Pokémon. We're just going to pump this to the maximum so you can play your games to the maximum. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be pushing Citra to the limit. We're going to be getting it fixed so it plays all the games, including the problematic ones such as Pokemon, Mario's, all that kind of good stuff, which would give you errors beforehand. We're also going to be enabling the controller as standard. Not just putting third-party apps on there, not hacking around it. We're going to actually enable it from within the emulator itself to give us full use of the 3DS controls. Then what we're going to do is show you the enhancements, and then we're going to hack into a few games to make them run even better by, well, your own opinion. In other words, some of the Pokemon games you can take away the black line, so on and so forth. We're going to get stuck into all that. So yes, it may be lengthy, this video, but there's a lot of information to take in, and we're going to go through it in a pretty simplistic way. Okay, first thing we need to do then is obviously get the emulator itself. Now in the description down below there'll be a link. It will guide you to this website here, which is the official Citra website. Now it may differ from the way it looks by the time you watch the video, but it should be overall the same. At the top of the screen you should have a download link. Click on that and it will guide you to this page here. Now there is two versions of Citra that you can download at this point, the nightly build version and the bleeding edge build version. Now bleeding edge is literally what it says in the on the tin. It's cutting edge. It's the most up-to-date, the most recent version of Citra that you can play, although it may be a little problematic or buggy because it's not been tested. It's literally just been built and released. Now the nightly builds are those that have had the seal of approval. They've had the tick in the boxes. It's been through a few people who've bug tested, so on and so forth, and it's been highlighted as an okay build, and then it's put in the nightly build. This then gets transformed into various different platforms. So if you are one of the, I don't know, Mac users, Linux, all that kind of good stuff, you are lucky enough to be able to play it on those devices. I got no idea what performance you'll get, but we're today going to be focusing on Windows. You can probably follow along with the rest of the stuff, but we're going to be focusing on Windows, and we're going to be using a bleeding edge to get the most compatibility, or should I say performance, out of this emulator. Okay, it's a simple task of clicking on whatever platform you want. It will download it. It's not that big. Take a few seconds, and then what we're going to do is first off install it onto the PC. It's not hard. It's literally just click on it and it does it for you. So here we go. Click on it. It should come out now with a pop-up. There we go. And now it's telling us, basically this is the bleeding edge. Don't bother about telling us about bugs. If you do have any bugs, download a later version, or go into the nightly builds, which are more stable. And thank you for using Citra, blah blah blah, yeah, whatever, or off. Okay, now what we've got is the emulator. It's loaded up as standard. And the good thing about this emulator is each time you launch it, you got a little shortcut here. Each time you launch it, it will go on the internet and it will make sure that it's the most up-to-date version. If it's not, then it will tell you and it will ask, do you want to download the most recent version? You click yes. Wait a few seconds, it downloads it, installs it. Everything is exactly the same as you had it set up before. However, this time it's more up to date. Genius. Absolute genius. I wish other emulators would go down that route. Okay, now what we want to do is get the basic configuration set up to make sure we're all singing off the same hymn sheet. Now, as default, it's pretty much set up as, well, pretty compatible. So first thing, I got no idea what it's going to be like in later iterations, but right now the most important one in each tab would be CPU JIT enabled. It should come as stock anyway, but just make sure the ticks are all in the same boxes, same settings, from the way that we're going to be doing this. In terms of system, this is all your personal information, so you can change your username to whatever you want. That's the same as having a profile on your 3DS as if you were playing it on your console, and the rest of the details if you want to mess around with that. Input wise, you cannot put your controller in at this point. Maybe in the future they're on about incorporating that into the emulator as standard, but right now I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. But make note of the keys because they will be useful if everything fails at that point. Okay, next one, graphics. This is where things will start getting beefy in just a second. Make sure everything here is as you can see. Make sure enable VSync is off and frame limit is on. It's a good idea sometimes to put them both on. However, VSync can hinder your system a little bit, and if it's weaker, it can bring your system resources down a little bit. So I like to keep that off. However, one thing that you do need to keep on in all this is limit frame rate. Otherwise, it will do fast forward. It's a bit uneven, and it's just not a good gaming experience altogether. The internal resolution then is set as 240. We will obviously be pumping this up because it looks horrible on a big TV or monitor, but we want to keep it as compatible at this moment in time, so then we can start ramping it up at a later stage. Keep it on 240 then. Audio, keep it as standard. Debug, don't bother with. Okay, all done, click OK, and that should now embed itself, make a config file on your system, and we're now good to go. Next thing then, adding games. Okay, I've got some demo games here. As you can see, there's quite the little stack. Now, don't worry about if you've got different icons and all that kind of stuff. For some reason, I've got Photoshop, and Photoshop is picking up that these are Photoshop files when they're not, basically, the games. However, the .3DS games, if you've got .cia files, they're not right. You need decrypted 3DS ROMs. I'll put a link on the website for more information on that, but if you're doing this, you need decrypted 3DS ROMs. Again, links in the description that will help you on the website. Okay, those are the games we're going to put in. The good thing about this emulator is that you can actually put them in the emulator. So all you need to do is click on File, select Game Directory. I know that mine at this moment are in the desktop. You can put them wherever you want in your computer. Put them into the folder, and now I've pointed this at this on the desktop where my games are. You point them wherever they are on your PC. Now it won't show any in the actual screen. However, once I put select folder, the emulator will then populate with all the games that's within that folder. Ba-bum! There we go, easy. So now it's as simple as double clicking on a game and you can play it. So first off, let's choose a game. Sonic Generations. Double click, and now it should launch the game. There we go. How awesome is that? So now you can play your games to your heart's content. The problem is that there are problematic games. So emulation, stop. Now some of the problematic ones are most of the Mario ones, Pokémon, and a few of the others. These are because they need certain files and folders that are within the official 3DS. Now the emulator can only give you things that it can make. So in other words, non-copyrighted stuff. Things that Nintendo or the people who publish the games do not own. Now they would love to give you everything to make everything work. However, by including all that stuff, it would be the same kind of principle as if they were sharing the games with the emulator. So they cannot do that. So what they need you to do is basically download from your own 3DS what's called the user or the home folder. Now I'll put links in the description down below of where you can find information on how to do that. Also, if you find a non-official Citra build of this, then you can use the user folder from that. Even if it's ancient, it doesn't make any difference. And this is the user folder. It could be different depending on what you've got in there, but this is what we need to make the problematic games work. And you know what I mean, because basically when we try to launch, I don't know, what doesn't do it as standard? Super Mario Kart, you just seen Sonic working, but when we do Mario Kart, it will just hang. And what will happen is you will have pink text in here saying that basically you got errors. And it will just hang here forever because it hasn't got the things in the folder in order for it to make it work. So what we need to do now is add those. So make sure you completely cancel out of Citra. Then Citra has installed itself in a certain place on your PC. So what you need to do is right click, open file location, and as you can see, it's within your profile on your PC in a folder called app data local Citra. Now a standard on your PC, app data will be a hidden file, or hidden folder should I say. So everything within here, if you was to navigate through this PC, it wouldn't show up once you got to the Simply Austin, or obviously your profile of your PC's folder. It would be a hidden folder, so you would need to tell the computer to show hidden files. But if you right click this and go straight there, you can see the files within. So now what we need to do is add our user folder that either you've dumped or you've sourced from another version of the emulator, probably an older one, and now we can add it to our official build. Okay, come out of here, go to the local folder, app data, and here is one called roaming. So basically we've gone back 2 spaces in our folder structure. Now we're on roaming, and there should then be another folder in here called Citra, and in here is everything that we need to make it work. So in other words, this is in essence our home folder. So as you can see, you've got NAND, config, SDMC, and sysdata. Now we can add ours over here, replace everything in the destination. Come on, you got this. There we go. And now, when we launch Citra, it should launch as normal. However, it will now launch it to the configuration that we've got. So because we've added a new config, what we need to do is set the game directory again. So for me, desktop, 3DS games, select folder, adds them all in. And as we saw before, Mario Kart didn't work. Click it again. Hopefully by the gods of emulation, it should now work.
Mario Kart.
Ta-da! So now we've got the emulator embedded. Now we've got the emulator fixed, so now it can play all the games that are now playable. Now what we need to do is add controller support. Now there's no need for third-party apps, and in fact the controller running from the emulator itself is far more superior in terms of sensitivity and playability by using it embedded in the controller within the emulator. So let's do that. It's already enabled, you just have to tell it to use it. So first things first, in the description down below I'll give you a link. It will guide you here. Now J Fox Rocks has made this awesome little guide, and what I'm going to do is shortcut it for you guys so you know what's going on. We've done all the rest of the stuff. Now what we need to do is add our controller. Now at this moment X input is the way forward. Basically anybody that's got a 360 pad, Xbox One or those similar, it should work. For those of you using PlayStation 4 stuff, read through this and do what is advised. Now for everybody else who lives in the simple world, all you need to do is right click on all this stuff, copy, then again go to the file location where your shortcut is, whatever profile it is that you've got. App data local Citra is where it will send you. What you need to do now is go to local and then go to app data. Now at this point again we're going to go into roaming. Now one of them will be called Citra, like we did with our little user folder, and within here there will be one called config. Open it up, and within here there will be one called qt config, not sd12 qt. So you can open this with Notepad, or if you've got it enabled already, Notepad++ make things a lot easier. So I'm going to open it with Notepad++. Now once this is actually kicked in and launched up, it's a simple case of pasting over what's already there. So as you can see, the controls at the moment are giving it keyboard commands. What we are going to do is override this with joystick commands. So click on there, so it's highlighted everything from C-stick, including C-stick, all the way to controls. Right click and paste. Now what that will do is override all the controls with the joystick commands. Obviously again, if you're running on a PlayStation or something similar in terms of controller, then you're going to have to follow the instructions for that. I'm an Xbox user and well, it's the most simple. I think usually Logitech and most of the mainstream controllers go down that route also. So everybody, or 99%, should be safe. It's just those of you with PlayStation ones, you may have to jump through a few more hoops. Once that's done then, press File, Save, and that should now exit out, open it up. We should be able to get to whatever game you want to play, for example Mario Kart 7. Should load up because we've already fixed it, and we should also now have joystick support. So no longer do I have to use my keys, I can now use my controller, so I can completely go in game. Let's quickly load up a game, come on. full size this so you can see it properly. It's looking beautiful as well, isn't it? So at this point you may not have a orange screen around you. This is my edited config. This is my profile from my 3DS and what I've been working on for a long time. So all the settings within here are to my standard. Also, like you guys now, you should be more or less the same as what I've got. And because you've enabled the controller from within the emulator, if you was to turn just a little bit, your player just turns a little tiny bit. If I was to swing round, the player swings round. The thing is, when you're using emulated controls from third-party devices, you don't have that kind of impact. You get a lot of controller lag and all that kind of stuff. So using the controller enabled from within the emulator itself is 1,000 times better. So now we're going to get stuck into heightening the actual visuals from within the emulator. All you need to do is double click on it, open it up, and then choose a game which you know is compatible with your actual emulator. One that isn't giving you a black screen, one that's not giving you issues, and one that actually runs well. Now I know from my previous tests that Super Smash Bros. Should be good to go for me. Now at this point what we want to be looking for is the 3D side of the game. Okay, so I'm not interested in the gameplay at this moment, but what I am interested in is making it look good. So as you can see right now we're running at 240p, which looks absolutely disgusting. Now depending on how good your PC is, especially in terms of the, how can we say, graphics, this will be how far you can push it. Now everybody's PCs will be different and everybody's performance will be different, but for me, I know I can get a good 1080 kind of configuration going on here without any impact whatsoever on my PC. So I'm going to go into configure and then going to go into graphics, and in internal resolution this time what I'm going to do is turn this up to 960. Now 960, by the time the actual screen and the borders and everything is taken into consideration, should be as close to 1080 that is possible within all these options, which should be about as maximum as anybody will need to go, especially considering this is a 3DS title. So click on that, and as you can see, everything now is crystal clear and looking absolutely beautiful. So I can now play this using my joystick. I can now play this using awesome visuals. The game is awesome and the world is a brilliant place. Right, we are now coasting through this. Our emulator is almost set up to the maximum. Now what it's time to do is get those little tweaks to get the most out of the games that we love to play. So first off, one for you guys and not so much me, Pokémon Moon. We're going to take away the black lines from without there so I can show you how easy it is to get rid of those lines. Okay, first off, you're going to need actually the game. Not that, the game. So, like I told you before, I've got all my .3ds files all here. One of them is Pokémon Moon. What we're going to do is the most simplest method to get rid of all those black lines and make it look as high fidelity as possible. The way to do that is to make a new game. Now this sounds more complicated than what it is. It's a simple case of clicking a few buttons. That is it. So exit out of here for the time being. Go into the description down below. There will be a link to this program here. It's a couple of megabytes, and get it installed. Get it so you got this on your desktop, which is HXD. This lets us edit hexes. Now don't worry, this sounds all complicated. It's a simple matter of changing a few lines of text. So get it installed, get it on your desktop. Then also in the description there will be this file. It's a simple text document, and within there's a few lines that I put in there so it's easy for you guys to cut and paste. So download that, open it up, then open up your HXD, and let's do this. How exciting is this? Right, this looks proper geeky, proper complicated, but it's not. It's a walk in the park. First off then, go to File, Open, and now find wherever your Pokémon Moon is. So mine's here. Load it up, and as you can see, it's just loaded up a huge, great big wall of text. And it's all just gibberish, isn't it, at the end of the day? But what we need to do is one simple thing. We need to change somewhere in that wall of text that combination of numbers with this combination of numbers. Now luckily this program makes it super easy. So all we need to do then is go to the first one, which I've labeled fine. Highlight all the numbers and text within there. Right click, copy. Then all you need to do is go over to your program, go into the search tab, go into find. Then in this box here, paste that sequence of numbers and letters. Then in data type, change that to hex values. Then it's a simple case. Hopefully, if all goes well, I click OK and it will find somewhere in all that gumph of numbers that sequence of numbers and letters. Hopefully, it will work. Yes, get in. So there we go. That is what we need to change. And what we need to change it to is the bit that I've labeled replace. So it's a simple case of highlighting all these numbers and text. Copy. Then go over to where it's highlighted. Right click. And then put paste insert. Now what that's done is replace what we had there previously with what we've just pasted and copied. So in other words, we've replaced that bit we just found with that bit that we've just put in there. How awesome is this? It sounds geeky, but trust me guys, it's done. That is it. That is all you needed to do. Exit out of here. Now what we need to do is save this as a game. Again, sounds complicated. It's a simple case of clicking on File, Save As, not Save, Save As. And what we're going to do is we're going to make another version of Pokemon Moon, except this time we're going to label it No Lines, because what we've just done is get rid of the black lines. So No Lines, or you can name it whatever you want. However, we needed to tell it what kind of file format it is, otherwise it'll just come up as a blank file. So at the end, put .3ds. So whatever you've called this, at the end, put .3ds in small letters at the end, okay? Then it will know that it's a .3ds file and everything will be good to go once we get back in the emulator. Press save. Now that bit may take longer depending on what kind of system you're running, but once it's done, exit out of everything, go back into where you've got your games, and hopefully we should now have one version of Pokemon Moon, which is the original, and this version. Obviously this version has got the lines in, and this version has got them taken out. So you can load whichever one you want, it makes no difference whatsoever. However, if you don't like one, then you can always revert back to the other, and vice versa. This is awesome, isn't it? Okay then, exit out of there. Now hopefully, when we launch the emulator, it should load both of them, so we can choose from which one we want to play. So as you can see now, we've got Pokemon Moon, and we've got Pokemon Moon No Lines. This is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to load this up just to prove to you that this has now worked. Okay, I'm now going to fast forward to where you can actually see that there's no lines. Okay then, so now as you can see, we are just about to be awakened, and as you can see, we now have got rid of all those ugly black lines, which is absolutely awesome. So now we've got our player, he's up and running. We now have got rid of the black lines, we've got controller support, we've pumped this up to the maximum, we are good to go. This is awesome. Also, this game is highly compatible now, which is even better. Now, for those of you who want to do a few final little tweaks, what you can do now is go into configure, and if your system can handle it, what you can start to do is pump this up even further. So obviously in the graphics section, what I've done is I've gone to layout and I've put it as large screen. As default, you will have this kind of layout, which is the large screen there, and then the bottom screen at the bottom. That's cool, but obviously most of the action happens on the main screen, so I like to enlarge that one. So I'm going to go back into configure, graphics, and we'll go on to large screen. Okay, next thing is configure. Go into graphics again. Now, you can run this obviously at 1080p, hopefully at this stage. You may have had to throttle back a little bit if your computer was struggling. However, if your computer can handle this even further, you can smash this all the way up. 9 times native, which is 4K resolution. So then you get an absolutely crystal clear representation of this game. Now, the good thing about this is if you push it to 4K, it's only impacting mostly on your GPU. So if you've got an alright GPU, then you should be able to handle it no problem. Most of the game speed of it all will be coming from your CPU. So if your computer is a good little beastie machine, you should be able to get quite a lot of performance out of this. And now, as you can see, we are now enjoying games to its full potential. No lines, no ugly messes, no pixelization, controller support, full screen. I don't even know what else I could do. So that is about it today, guys. I think that I have pretty much nailed this on the head. You are now good to go with Citra in general. As always, if you've got any requests, if you've got any questions, put them in the comment section down below. I'll try my best to answer them. I'm sure there is loads of people out there as well, which is just as helpful, which will also help you in your quest of knowledge. Please look at the Citra website. There is loads of useful information over there. There's forums to get involved, and the scene is buzzing with all this stuff in general. I don't want to take up any more of your time. It's been a pleasure as always bringing this to you guys. Please tell me if you want any videos in the future, but please like, please subscribe, please do everything in this world that Pokemon would do. But most of all, you have a good day. Laters!